Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Laces Out podcast, and you know what they say about guests? Guests are like buses. You wait around for ages for a guest, and then two come along at once. Find out who our guests are, and find out which other podcast they're from. All that, the games from last week, the games from this week, everything in between, all the NFL you could possibly want in one space. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Share the podcast around, people. That's the big one. Share the podcast around. If you've got an NFL fan in your life, send them this podcast. They will absolutely thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast. Laces out.
Recording in progress.
It allegedly we are recording. For you eagle-eared amongst us, you won't be able to see the glorious sight in front of you. For you YouTube watchers, you're like, whoa, it's rice and chips? What is happening here? This is the wrong day, it's the wrong time. What could this possibly be? It's like the NFL guys went out, grabbed 2/3 of the Formula One podcast guys and smashed it in together into one glorious podcast. And you would be absolutely 100% correct. I am here with my super glamorous co-host, Mr. Paul Williams. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
As always, living. And we are joined, as previously mentioned, by 2/3 of the UK and in fact the world's #1 Formula One podcast, Mr. Mark Wilkin, Mr. James Stainforth. How are you two gentlemen doing?
Hello, good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you for having us.
Yeah, apart from living, I can't give you any further updates. I believe that Mark is going to be our state correspondent for this one, for a segment we're calling Been There, Done That. And
my nickname isn't Tex for nothing, apparently.
And James is here to try and take the beard mantle, is what I'm hearing. I heard on the grapevine, he's like, I'm coming for that beard, and I'm like,
I don't know, mate. I mean, I'm nervous. I mean, Mark told me that apparently you was 1 day old when you had your first shave, so.
It's true, but it wasn't on my face. Moving swiftly on, Paul, I believe that plenty of picks have been sent your way. However, I believe that there is some other business that's needed to be taken care of when dealing with new guests. So take that away, please.
There certainly is, Mr. Cooks. Obviously, as we've done for every episode where we've actually had guests in person this season on the podcast, we've asked said guests to provide us with a couple of all season long predictions. So I'll come to Mark first. Mark, we've asked people to pick their Super Bowl matchup. So can I get your AFC versus NFC Super Bowl pick? Obviously, we're now into week 11. This might look a bit better. So, like a Bears.
I mean, it's so up and down this season. Even week 11 doesn't give me much of an advantage, to be brutally honest.
True.
I was going to go play it safe and go Chiefs, Eagles. However, I think Dolphins, 49ers.
Oh.
Interesting.
Delicious.
Now, of that particular matchup, which one do you think would have the edge come Super Bowl Sunday?
49ers.
And the guy who would get the nod as the MVP in that game?
It's got to be Christian McCaffrey.
So, that is the second pick of Dolphins 49ers.
Oh.
fourth pick of the 49ers to win the match overall, and the second pick of a Christian McCaffrey game MVP.
Which means it won't happen. So sorry.
Listen, you never know. Stranger things may have happened. James, I'll come to you next. So same questions. AFC versus NFC matchup. What do you think?
So this is what's annoying, because Mark just said Chiefs and Eagles. I have gone Chiefs and Eagles, but what I'm seeing is it's going to be right up to the end. It's going to be Chiefs 49ers, and then last minute kind of shock.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if that was the outcome. So of the Chiefs versus the Eagles, which would you give the edge to?
I'm going Philly.
Interesting. And who would you pick as your game MVP in that scenario?
If it's that scenario, well, it is going to be that scenario, because let's face it, I'm predicting it. So, not arrogant or anything there. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts.
Nice. So that is our second Chiefs-Eagles pick of the season after Mr. Cook. However, he went for the Kansas City Chiefs, whereas I've also picked the Eagles to win the game, but I went for Eagles-Bengals as my Super Bowl, and I have also picked Jalen Hurts to be the game's MVP. So, couple of sort of similar picks across the board there. The last thing for each of you to pick, gentlemen, would be a regular season league MVP. So I'll come to James first for that one. So, who do you think's looking the most likely at the minute to be named the league MVP as it stands?
It's got to be Patrick Mahomes.
Interesting.
Where things are going at the moment. I mean, normally I've been tied between him and Josh Allen, but
Monday night happened.
Yeah,
that wasn't the best.
No,
that wasn't the best. Mark, who have you gone for?
Exactly the same, Patrick Mahomes.
See, I think he's potentially had his worst season yet as a pro. Arguably, he's not hitting the numbers that he usually would. I don't know if that means that he's just going to come out down the stretch and just put some ridiculous figures together or something like that. But
no, I was going to say before you guys picked, I was going to say now, just before you pick, just so you guys know, I've gone with Aaron Rodgers, so it's probably best to stay away from him because I need the win this season. So Aaron Rodgers is kind of off the table for picking.
He might come back. He
might get comeback player of the year. But
yeah. Right, I was just going to say this: has a player ever won comeback player of the year after being injured and come back in the same season?
No, because the famous one has to be Alex Smith, doesn't it? But it wasn't in the same season.
No,
that took him like 3 years to come back from, didn't it? His leg was messed up.
Yeah, that was.
Oh god, yeah, that was awful.
So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. So your season-long picks. Mark has gone with the Dolphins 49ers Super Bowl, with the Niners to win the game and Christian McCaffrey to be the game's MVP. James has gone with the Chiefs Eagles, with the Eagles to win the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts to be the game's MVP. And they've both taken Patrick Mahomes to get the nod as the regular season league MVP.
Not going to lie, gents, I would snatch both your hands off for those Super Bowls. Absolutely. At this stage in the game, I would take either of those as an option and be a very happy man come Super Bowl Sunday. Now then, we talk about all sorts of stuff. We talk about what happened last week. We talk about what happens this week. We got some prediction stuff going on. We got last week's, next week's. So let's get last week's predictions out of the way because, as I was saying off air, I am not looking forward to this.
Well, so obviously last week it was one of the weeks where we weren't able to secure a guest, so I asked my lovely wife to provide her predictions again. If she listens to this, she might not be happy to hear that coming last with 4 of 14 selections correct, it was Amy Williams. Oh dear.
Now, any other week, you'd go 4 is a bad score. The week we're talking about in question, I think 4 is a reasonable score because, oh my word, what happened last week?
Well, she picked in game week 8, and she got 12 out of 16 correct. So obviously week 10 was just an anomaly across the board. Yeah, the only one she managed to get correct were the Colts beating the Patriots, the Vikings beating the Saints, the Cowboys beating the Giants, and the Seahawks beating the Commanders. The rest, she was all way off the mark. So that leaves myself and Mr. Cook second with 7 of 14 selections correct. So not many more. Was myself. You can see the surprise on his face, ladies and gentlemen. Which means winning the week with 9 of 14 selections correct is Mr. Cook. So the 7 teams that let me down. I had the Ravens to beat the Browns, the Bengals to beat the Texans, the Saints to beat the Vikings, the Falcons to beat the Cardinals, Chargers to beat the Lions, Jets to beat the Raiders, and the Bills to beat the Broncos. A couple of them were coin flip games, really. Bills should have beaten the Broncos if they could have, not kept 11 men on the field.
So, one of the stats from the game, Josh Allen has nearly as many interceptions as he has touchdown passes. I think he's got 19 touchdown passes and 11 interceptions for the season.
Do we assume that he just saw Jameis Winston's 30 and 30 season from a couple of years back at Tampa, and he's just going for that again? He wants that 30 interception season.
Maybe they go to the same optician.
I believe the Bills have relieved their offensive coach of his duties today, and they are going with one of their other coaches to fill the position on an interim basis.
Either way, it's not looking particularly healthy in Bills County. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so getting the win with 9 of 14 selections correct, it is Mr. Cook this week. Well done, sir. You were only let down by the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals at the Texans, also at home to the Texans. The Falcons not beating the Cardinals, the Jets not beating the Raiders, and the Bills not beating the Broncos. But other than that, 9 out of 14. So that moves you to 3.5 points for the season. I'm still languishing on 1.5 points. But the guest does have 5 points for the season. That does leave us with the side bet for week 10. Now, obviously, for those who are unfamiliar with the side bet, of the week's games, myself and Andy go in. We pick 4 games where we think it's a clear-cut winner one way or the other. As soon as that game is selected, it moves it from the slate, and the other person can't select it. So, Andy's teams, he had the Steelers to beat the Packers. What's the point there? The Falcons to beat the Cardinals. It's a big no. The Bengals to beat the Texans. It's another big no. And most importantly, the Bills to beat the Broncos. It's not great reading. Let's not beat around the bush there. It's not ideal. So Andy went into the week with 21 points from a possible 36. He ends the week with 22 points from a possible 40. Not ideal. Not ideal.
It's not what I'm going for. If we're under any illusions here, that's not what I'm aiming for.
No, but we'll come back to that. So I had, unfortunately, the Ravens to beat the Browns. So that's an incorrect selection for me. But I did have the Cowboys to beat the Giants. Tick. The Seahawks to beat the Commanders. Tick. and the Colts to beat the Patriots in Germany.
Sweet mother.
Big tick. So I get myself 3 points for the week to move on to 28 from possible 40. So the lead that I had over Mr. Cook does extend, sadly. So we're now at, you need more than a clean sweep in one of the weeks to get yourself back in contention. But it happened last season, so
it did. It did. I'm not.
Strange things have happened.
I'm not feeling it this season. This season is well and truly because listening to those picks, I'd go back and make every single one of them again. So, yeah. Screw off 2023 season. Week 10 of 2023 season.
Now I understand there's been some sort of breakdown in the communications. Did someone not put 50p in the slot to Mr. Davies this morning to get those stats?
So the short version is this: moving the record around moves the options for gathering of the stats. Sometimes they have to be done on the fly by the stats mistress. Sometimes they have to be done poolside during swimming lessons, and can't always guarantee the quality. This week the stats mistress said, "Hey, we don't want to know what this week's stats are. Let's look at last year's." So I'm like, "Here you go, Paul. Here's some stats." And he's like, "These stats are wrong." I'm like, "What? How are they wrong?" He's like, "Well, they're not from last week." He's like, "They're not even from this season." It's like, shit. So yes, I sent a text message to the stats mistress and said, "WTF?" And she went, "So instead of doing any stats this week, I gave you a stat. I gave you a Josh Allen stat. There we go. That's stats for the week done." Moving on swiftly. One of our guests has attended American football. I don't know what you're thinking. Yeah, we've all been to Wembley. We've all seen how the sausage is made. No. One of our guests is a worldwide traveller and has been on location. So, replacing the stats for this week is a live account, a blow-by-blow, some might say, of what it's like to go to an American football game in the Americas. Mark, I believe you've had live attendance for American football.
I have indeed. I was lucky enough, for my 40th to attend San Francisco 49ers v the Arizona Cardinals, James's team.
All right.
Totally different to the London games. Mental. The tailgate before, just absolutely crazy with the big pickups, the barbecues, the beers, the music. Yeah, it was a totally different experience. Really, really good though. Well worth it to anybody to go to America and see a game.
How long before the game did you actually get there for like all the tailgate and stuff like that?
So San Francisco is a bit strange because obviously the ground is Santa Clara, so it's two trains and 2 hours away.
2 trains.
It was a half one kickoff, and I think we got there about 11:30. So it was a couple of hours, obviously, before. A bit like a football game here, the build up. But they start at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Like all the official tailgates opened at, I'm sure it was like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. But yeah, we had a Caltrain to get the double decker train, and then a monorail type tram thing as well. So obviously, with it being quite far away, we didn't want to get up at the crack of dawn and go. But yeah, they was well into the swing of things time we got there, and that was 2 hours before the game.
Had you taken any bits with you, or were you just sort of being like thrown beers and stuff like that? Because I think that in my head, they seem to be sort of quite generous with like English folk and stuff like that?
Oh, I mean, God, because it was my birthday, we went with my wife and our two friends, and they'd bought me a sash that said 40 today, and that was like, they were like flies around shit, really, to me. They were like, like kind of, you're here, you're English. Why are you here? Like, right, I've come to see the game, blah, blah, blah. Great. I mean, they all sell the beers and sell the food, so I'm guessing that kind of is like, I mean, it's a couple of dollars a beer. Like, they have these big burgers and stuff. Again, I think that was $3 or $4. But what's really, really strange is they don't go into the game when it kicks off. So obviously, you can see the car park from, we was high up in the stands. Obviously, being from Yorkshire, we got the cheap seats. And they didn't come into the game until halfway through the second quarter. They were still out in the car park, partying, music was on, and there was just a steady stream of people going into the second quarter of the game, and you thought, you've missed half the game nearly. Like, what? It's not cheap. But yeah, they were so welcoming, and as soon as in the stand, every touchdown, they were turning around, high-fiving me, like cheering, hugging, like, yeah, it's his birthday, man, and all everything you stereotypical American. Yeah, it was that.
Nice. So you'd certainly recommend it as an experience then?
Yeah, I mean, I love the London games. I've been to Twickenham, Wembley, and Tottenham, but this for me, probably across every sport I've been to, is the best sporting event I've attended, definitely. And I'd hands down go back tomorrow. I mean, we met some fans in LAX airport before. They fly from San Diego for every home game. They drive from San Diego to LAX, then fly to San Fran, stay in Santa Clara. And they said, don't buy your tickets before. So many season pass holders won't go to the littler games, so buy them online at Ticketmaster. But like we said, we're from the UK. We wanted them well in advance. But they was even friendly in the airport. As soon as you had a 49ers jersey on and you spoke English, they was all over you.
Nice. Well, it's always nice to get a sort of a different sort of opinion of things and stuff like that. It's obviously not all of us have had the chance to go to a game in the States. That's pretty cool. So we'll move on to week 11's games. All the boys have sent me in picks. There are a couple that we just need to clarify, but we'll do that all in good time. So don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You won't have to do anything in your feed, but we are just going to step away, and take a small break just before we go through the week 11 picks. But yeah, like I said, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back in, ladies and gents. So, week 11's game picks. Like I said before, 3 gents on the screen and myself, which would indicate that I'm not a gent, I think. Interesting. Anyway, so we've all provided our picks for this week. There was just 2 that we needed to clear up. So Mark was uncertain before the record about the Bengals at Ravens and the Eagles at Chiefs games. I do understand now, Mark, that you've decided to go with your original gut feeling of the Ravens to get the win against the Bengals and the Chiefs to get the win against the Eagles.
They're both coin flip games, so yeah, that was my gut feeling. I'm sticking with it.
Okay.
I'm going with it.
So those 2 particular games, you know how Mark feels about them. So we'll just go through them one by one, give you the sort of a flavour of the group. So obviously the first game of the week is the Thursday night football. Kind of a return to form for Thursday night football, considering that last week's game was the Panthers at the Bears. Wouldn't be surprised if I found out that the viewing figures for that took a little bit of a hit last Thursday, considering that's 2 teams that probably have no chance of making the postseason, dare we say. Although, to be fair, the division that, I suppose I was going to say the division that the Bears are in, it's not the greatest, but then again, the division that the Panthers are in is not exactly setting the world on fire.
I was going to do some kind of joke about how one of those teams struggles to make the regular season, but I thought I'd tell you.
So, Bengals at Ravens. We've got 3 people who've gone for the Ravens to get the win here. That is Andy, Mark, and James. I think the Bengals might get this one done. Like Mark said, it's a bit of a coin flip game. Obviously, it's interdivisional as well. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens bounce back. Obviously, having lost to the Browns last week, but obviously the Bengals got beaten as well. So they both need to bounce back in theory. Should have put a tie in, shouldn't I? The lesser spotted tie. So we move on to the second game of the week, and this is the start of the 6 p.m. games. Not a great shock to say that we've all taken the Cowboys to beat the Panthers. I would dare I say one of the easier games to predict of the weekend.
Now you've said that, the Cowboys will throw it away.
Oh, they'll put in a classic Dallas performance and somehow manage to get like 11 points for the entire game or something like that. Next up, we've got another interconference game. We've got Steelers at Browns. I'm a little bit surprised actually. We've all taken the Browns on that one, even though it's like a big sort of like rivalry game. Like, no one fancying the Steelers in that one.
I didn't realise how good their record was actually, because everyone's been down on them. So when you look, actually, they've done better than what you think. But yeah, up in the Browns.
So I think like with the Steelers, it's strange, isn't it? Because obviously Tomlin's never had a losing season there, and even in the I think it was it last season or the season before, they still managed to finish 8-1. So he had a perfectly 500 season or something like that. Yeah, they're a strange one to call at the minute, the Steelers, because obviously they're 6-3. That entire division's over 500. And to make the division like more interesting, obviously a Bengals win, and it seems unlikely, but a Steelers Browns tie puts pretty much everyone in the division within a game or half a game of each other. So anyone can win that division moving forward. Yeah, a bit of a strange one, that one. Next up, we've got the Bears at the Lions. Now, James has taken the Bears in this one, and I kind of want to know why.
Honestly, I think it's after the surprise we had recently. I'm just expecting another one. Why not? Let's have a little giggle.
Do you know what? It's one of those games as well, because it's like because it's divisional. They're the games that you sort of like tend to see that like the players are a bit more up for as well. So if they are going to get another win, I mean they've got 3 wins all season anyway, but you wouldn't be surprised if it was a win against a team that's doing well. And obviously the Lions having only lost 2 games all season. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen personally. I mean, like I said, me, Andy, and Mark have all gone for the Lions in that one. But you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Jared Goff could turn back into Jared Goff at any time.
That is true.
Any day now, that is a possibility. Any moment, any day. It's like, is it now? Is it today?
Yeah, it could happen.
No.
That could be the game. So.
Next up, we've got the Chargers and the Packers. Myself, Andy, and Mark have all taken the Chargers, whereas James has gone for the Packers. Is that just because of the home field advantage there, or do you think that the Packers are a better team?
No, just go for the advantage.
Yeah, fair enough, I suppose. We're starting to get into the time of year where I don't think anyone's going to want to go to Green Bay because it's going to be freezing. So, and obviously, if the Chargers have got to go across the country as well, it's one of those ones where you wouldn't be surprised if that was the outcome. I thought the Chargers were unlucky against the Lions on Sunday, to be fair. That was a hell of a game. And obviously they only just lost it at the end. Next up, we've got the Cardinals at the Texans. 3 people have picked the Texans, and I bet you can't guess who it is that's picked the Cardinals. Although I didn't notice he'd removed his Cardinal cap. for the second portion of the podcast there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Oh, just my head's getting too big, so it don't fit now. It's giving me headaches from tension.
Nothing to do with a badge on the front. Honest.
To be fair, they got a good win last week against the Falcons.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the Titans at the Jags. There's a bit of a pattern emerging here. Myself, Andy, and Mark have all taken the Jaguars, whereas James has taken the Titans. It's another one. There's a lot of like conference games this week, it seems, and I don't know if it's. I can't remember if it's the Titans or. Oh no, it's the Colts. I think there's a stat about the Colts, and whenever the Colts and Jaguars play, it's something like the Colts haven't beaten the Jaguars for like 8 straight games or something like that. So this is another one where the Jaguars are at home, but because it's conference, I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans did win that one. Considering how bad they were at the weekend, they got absolutely the Niners went into Jacksonville and absolutely smoked them. So I won't be surprised if that's going to sort of linger for a little while, and they're sort of like licking their wounds a little bit. Yeah, any thoughts on that one?
Nothing. He's got nothing.
Like I say, conference games are always a bit weird. They always go a little bit sort of strange. Next up, we've got the Raiders at the Dolphins. Myself, Andy, and Mark have all taken the Dolphins on this one. James has gone for the Raiders. Now, that one's got to be playing for points.
At this point, I'm like, this is all about points. He's looked at last week and gone, I've got an idea. Now, if it works, if it doesn't work, fine. But if it works, I'm going to go down in infamy.
I thought, I'm not on this every week. That I'm not competing against Cookie or Paul. I'm like, this is just me and Mark, so I know what Mark's probably going to go with most. So I'm just going to go with the other one and just see what happens here. Just have a bit of a laugh.
Am I that predictable? Well, no, I suppose I've gone the sensible option. Yeah.
Fast forward to this time next week when Paul's like, and winning the week with a nearly clean sweep. And the rest of us are just like, it's a deserved win. Let's go with that.
With the Cardinals.
If
it happens, I'll never come on the NFL podcast again because
if it happens, I'm never coming on again.
Someone's definitely going to click that and then just like sort of play it back to you. Just like, right, you're a man of your word here. Come on.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got the Giants at the Commanders, and I bet you can't guess the pattern, ladies and gentlemen. 3 of us have taken the Commanders, and 1 of us has taken the Giants. Any guesses as to who that might be?
I mean, now you're just being stupid if you took the Giants. Come on.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, what's the thinking behind that one?
Again, I'm just trying to annoy Mark now.
You're not just a huge Tommy DeVito fan.
Only to frustrate Mark as much as I can right now, and I'm quite enjoying it, in all honesty.
It's working. It's working.
Oh, it certainly is. Next up, I think it's the start of the 9 o'clock games. It certainly is. So we've got the Buccaneers at the 49ers, and we've all taken the 49ers on that one. I think even a Bucks in San Francisco was a little bit too hard to pick for James, I think. We've all gone the same, actually. So the next one, another sort of strange one. So we've got the Jets and the Bills. We've all taken the Bills. But based on the Monday Night Football against the Broncos, something's not right in Buffalo.
No.
And I don't know if is it a Josh Allen thing? Is it a whole team thing?
So, obviously, from that game, a lot of stuff's come out. They've made a change at offensive coach today. But I think you might be onto something with saying it's going deeper than that, because there was something wrong with Josh Allen. Those interceptions were painful to watch. There was stuff going on with other members of that team. There was a couple of strange drops. Obviously, I don't want to mention anything to do with the fact that the officials definitely tried to help them out with the raft of penalties against the Broncos, and still could not get it done. And let's face it, the Broncos weren't having an amazing time. We were talking about like the kicker. Pretty sure he only saved his job by getting that second attempt because he missed a point after. So
2?
Yeah. So it was a bit like the Broncos weren't having the most amazing day. Russell Wilson has obviously been told at this point, you ain't getting any protection, so if you don't want to be eating grass for the rest of the season, you probably want to start playing your own game, because the moment that ball is let loose, that pocket collapses faster than a bridge made of paper, and he is just running around like headless chicken, like, where can I put this ball? And weirdly in that game was managing to find places to put it. It's like the rest of the team were like, well, I guess I'll take the ball if you can get it to me, I'll take it from you, I guess. So there was all of that going on that side of the ball. The Bills, that there was something seriously wrong across that entire team.
I mean, the first play, James Cook got it stripped, didn't he? Like, I think that set the tone for it. But like you say, it just went wrong from there. But the Sutton touchdown was a bloody good catch. I mean, fair play. But like you say, the Bills are their own worst enemies at the minute. Josh Allen's a funny quarterback, isn't he? Because he's been ready to win the Super Bowl for how many seasons now, and he's getting nowhere near.
I think they're always gonna struggle with the fact that they're in the same like conference, or like, well, I don't even know how you sort of determine it, but obviously with the fact that like to get to the Super Bowl, they're pretty much gonna have to beat the Chiefs at least once, and that's always in the back of their mind, and like that's just like a little mental block they can't get past and stuff like that. But yeah, just something's definitely not right there. Like Andy said, obviously, if they've fired the offensive coordinator, maybe that'll be the change that they need to sort of give them a kick up the arse to sort of finish the season strong, and stuff like that. But we'll see. Next up, we've got the Seahawks at the Rams. We've all taken the Seahawks on that one. Now, I think just going off like future like past performances, I think for a while the Rams were a bit of a bogey team for the Seahawks. I think it seemed to be a case. You might know this better, Mark, obviously because it's your sort of conference. But obviously there was that time when the Seahawks made the Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons, and it seemed like the only team that beat them in that time was the Rams, or one of the teams that sort of seemed to beat them on like quite a sort of a frequent basis was the Rams. But yeah, like I say, we've all gone for the Seahawks. I don't know if that's just because the Rams are sort of rebuilding or the Seahawks look strong. Any thoughts?
I've been saying all season that the Seahawks are just slipping under the radar this season. They've had a couple of bad seasons, so I think the psychology behind it is that that's what people expect from them this season, and they are literally just spending their time going, just keep your heads down, don't make a fuss, don't make a lot of noise, and we'll keep this winning streak going. Because every week that I come to predict the games, when you look at it, it's like, are they 6-3? The Seahawks.
Have a quick look.
They're the same as 49ers, because yeah.
So they're doing well. So it's that kind of, just keep your heads down, keep quiet, and just keep moving.
It's funny because, like you said, last season, all we heard about the Seahawks was Pete Carroll's the same message to the team, the players are bored of it, and it was all about Pete Carroll potentially going out of the Seahawks. This year, nothing's been said, and like you say, they've got a good running back, they've got 3 good receivers now, Gino is solid, if not spectacular, and they've got a good defence again. Like I say, they're a well-rounded team, really, aren't they? And like I say, they're well under the radar. But 6-3, they're not getting a lot of noise said about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of that is because, like, obviously up until they lost the 3 in a row, I think the Niners just looked like a cut above anyone else in that sort of division. So it was almost as if it was just like, well, it's the Niners to lose, as it were, rather than the Seahawks to win. So, but yeah. So we have 2 games left. The Sunday Night Football sees the Vikings take on the Broncos. The Broncos are a strange one, because aren't they now something like 4-5, the Broncos?
Yeah.
So I think their last 2 wins are the Chiefs and the Bills. You'd have got good money on that if you'd have put that on as a double.
Yeah, so I saw a thing that was saying the last 2 games they've won were against the Chiefs and the Bills. And it was like, of all the games to win, great. Is this like, the Broncos looked different. And what I mean there essentially is Russell Wilson looked different last week. It's like he's accepted that he can't get any help from the team. So if he wants a win, he's got to get it himself. He seemed to be running the ball more. Like he'd be like, well, I've got nowhere to throw it, but I've got a gap, so I'm just going to run. So it was a weird thing to watch, where it's like, who's helping him get this win? Didn't seem to be. To give them their dues, the Broncos' defense is generally reasonably good, and this version of the Broncos' defense is good. So when they're stopping the ball the other way, you know, they've got that going for them. But from an offensive stance, it's literally Russell Wilson out there on his own. Whereas previous weeks, he was just taking sacks left, right and centre because, for want of a better way of putting it, the rest of the team didn't like him and weren't protecting him. Now it seems to be a system where it's like, we still don't like you and we're still not going to protect you, but he's the one going, fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, from a predictions perspective, myself, Andy and Mark have all taken the Vikings here. James has gone with the Broncos. Now, I can't work out if that's whether he thinks the Broncos are on a bit of a tear, or it's just the fact that he's pissed off that the Vikings took Josh Dobbs off the Cardinals.
Nah, no hard feelings here, mate.
What's his new nickname? Dobbs in the NFL now. Something to do with his NASA.
Oh, Christ Almighty! What was it?
Is it Pastronaut?
That was it.
The one. Yeah,
that's
the
one.
Pastronaut. I didn't realise how many teams he'd had, Josh Dobbs, and how long he's been around the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd been drafted by the Ravens, but never got in, I don't think he ever played for maybe like a couple of sort of relief games here and there. But the first I knew was when he was the backup at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Ben, yeah.
And then he sort of rolled around the leagues, or rolled around the team since then. But fair play to him. I thought he had a hell of a start of the season at Arizona. He actually made him competitive in some of the games.
Yeah,
so,
he did.
And fair enough, he's got the gig at the Vikings until at least the end of the season. And obviously, old Kirky boy's contract's up at the end of the season, isn't it? So wouldn't be surprised if they have a positive end between now and the end of the season. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets to gig long term in Minnesota. But you just can't tell with this league, can you? And finally, the Monday Night Football, the worst possible slot for this if you live in the UK, and possibly the best game of the season so far. It is the Eagles at the Chiefs. A repeat of last season's Super Bowl and possibly this coming one as well. in a repeat of the pattern that appears to have fallen this entire evening. Myself, Andy, and Mark have all taken the Chiefs on this one, whereas James has gone with the Eagles. Now, like Mark said for the other game, the Bengals at the Ravens, this one absolutely is a 50-50 for me. Coin flip. Just give the edge to the Chiefs because they're at home, personally. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised if we get another shootout like we did in the Super Bowl on this one. And like I said, I'm just pissed off that it's at like 1:20 on a Tuesday morning. Is the most irritating thing for me.
Feeling it to be just like a shoot off though either. If I'm going with they're going to be in the Super Bowl again this season, that's where it'll be the whole arm wrestle thing again, all over again. But this one, I just think it's going to be a very convincing win
for the Eagles. Interesting. I mean, like I can't remember the last time that like the Chiefs sort of like capitulated at home. Well, I suppose it would have been the first game of the season, I suppose, when they lost to the Lions. But I won't be surprised. Like I said right at the top, Mahomes, he's not looked quite right all season for me. So I wouldn't. It's that sort of thing where if he doesn't have a great start, it might sort of get to him. You might see him sort of like fold a little bit, but. I mean,
Obviously,
he's done it his entire career, though, hasn't he? Like, sort of like being put behind in situations and then just coming through and getting the win. That's like sort of a bit of his MO, really. But
obviously, we need to ask the important question.
I was going to ask this. Yep, I know exactly what you're going to say here.
Is Taydolf going to be in attendance?
Maybe James knows she isn't. That's why he's gone for the Eagles.
He's like. According to Taydolf Switler's Instagram account, she's not going to be in attendance. So I think we know which way this one's going to go.
Well, let's all pray for the Chiefs Nation. Tay. She's not going to be there. So the eagle-eared amongst you may have noticed there that Andy and Mark have managed to pick the exact same slate of all 14 games there. Oh, just to clarify, the 4 teams that are on bye for Week 11 are the Falcons, the Saints, the Colts, and the Patriots. The Patriots, obviously, hoping that their bye can last for the next 8 weeks, so that they never have to play a game ever again this season.
Presumably they're using their bye week to find themselves a new head coach. It's time, gentlemen, it's time.
So, because Andy and Mark have both picked the exact same slate of the 14 games, we need some way to differentiate between them in the event of a tie, which obviously which will happen. So, what I have proposed, gentlemen, is 14 games in total. I'll go with whoever has the closest number for total points scored across all 14 games. So, have a quick think. Think of maybe an average points that are scored in each game. Multiply it by 14 to give yourself a rough average, and then sort of like tweak it a little bit, maybe. And then I'll come back to both of you to get your ideas. I was gonna suggest which game do you think will have the highest points in it, but then that's not a definite thing. Whereas there definitely will be a number of points scored across the 2 games.
I thought you might have gone for predict the Chiefs-Eagles score as the tie-break, because that'd have been cruel.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that if you prefer.
I don't know which one is the worst. So let's go. Okay, sounds 14, wasn't it? Right. Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like Mark's. Have you got yours, Andy?
I have.
Right, Mark, what have you gone for?
532.
Andrew?
I've gone with 560.
Ooh. Right, so there you have it. So, obviously, in the event that Andy or Mark is the winner, whoever's the closest in the points there will get the win. So that's Week 11's games predicted from the four of us. All that's left to do now is for me and Andy to pick our 4 games for the side bet. Obviously, because Andy is behind in the standings, I will, of course, let him choose whether he goes first or asks me to go first. Obviously, last week he put me into bat, so to speak, so that he got the 2 slots of 2 picks. How do you want to do it this week, Mr. Cook?
What I was going to say to Mark and James is, if you want to play along, you can predict which of our picks you think has the higher chance of winning. So whether my 4 games are going to be the way I've picked 4 games are better than the way Paul's picked them. Unfortunately, Paul,
and I'll just go with whatever Mark doesn't go with.
Yeah, so just go with the opposite of Mark. Just wait for him to pick first. Unfortunately, Paul, you've made 2 mistakes here. Number 1 is giving me the option to go first, which I will. And then number 2 was telling me which game to pick first. So I'll be taking the Cowboys to beat the Panthers, please.
I mean, it's certainly... surely they've got to be at least a 2 touchdown favourite in that game, surely.
Having now picked that to be my game, look out for, and in a strange turn of events, the Panthers have beaten the Cowboys by 60 points.
It will be one of those games where the Panthers are 2 touchdowns up within the first quarter. Okay, so Andy's taking the Cowboys. I'll jump straight in there and I'll go for the Lions to beat the Bears. And the Dolphins to beat the Raiders.
Oh, you swine. That was the game I was looking...
Your next 2 picks, sir.
Okay, possibly strangely, but I will take the Commanders to beat the Giants.
Not going to lie, that's exactly where I was looking. So.
And the 49ers to beat the Buccaneers.
Yep, it's a solid 2 picks. I will go with the Jags to beat the Titans. And I will finish off with... Now it's getting a bit more difficult. I'll go with the Seahawks beating the Rams.
I was like, I'm going to get the Seahawks out from under Paul because he'd already said. Damn it! I thought I was going to snake that little one out. Do I go with that? I ain't touching either of those. Those have already been taken. Those have already been taken. And I ain't touching either of those games. So it has to be... Stu will be happy that I will take the Los Angeles Chargers to beat the Green Bay Packers. Because, as I was just going through there, I ain't touching any of those other games. So I'm kind of left with one option.
So, just for clarification there, so Andy's taken the Cowboys at home. No, sorry, the Cowboys at the Panthers, the Commanders at home to the Giants, the Niners at home to the Buccaneers, and the Chargers at the Packers. Whereas I've taken the Lions at home to the Bears, the Dolphins at home to the Raiders, the Jags at home to the Titans, and the Seahawks at the Rams. if you were pressed there, gents, which do you think is the sort of the more likely to be the safe 4 selections?
Go on, James.
See what he's done there.
Yep, got in there first.
Smart move.
I'd probably go with Paul's.
Oh, what would you like to see?
I'd have gone with you, Andy.
For a second, I thought James was going to go with the, if I make out that I'm frozen, then Mark will have to make his pick, and then I'll be like, sorry, I'm back. I honestly thought he was doing the.
So they've got it. So I've made a note there. So Mark has gone with Andy's selections, whereas James has gone with mine.
Yeah.
That brings to an end Week 11's selections, ladies and gents, and all the side pit, and all the assorted nonsense that goes along with it. I suppose all that's left for myself and Mr. Cook to do is to thank these two gentlemen for joining us on the podcast this week. Thanks very much, gents. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedules to join us.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Check out the Straight to the Apex podcast, the finest Formula One podcast in the land and any other land. I think not to talk about a different sport, but I think the Formula One podcast, the Formula One season is coming to a close, so I would work on the principle that the podcast will slowly be winding down, but we've got 2 seasons under our respective belts, so if you want to go back and listen to 2 seasons worth of Formula One podcast, you can absolutely do that anywhere and everywhere you get your podcast, even on Audible. I remembered that one the other day. It popped up on Audible whilst looking for a book. I was like, I forget that one's always there, so yeah. At some point, we're going to be featured on a popular pregnancy test. So while you wait, you can listen to the podcast. Yes.
Say our thing, pop up positive or something.
So check out the Formula One podcast. Thank you very much to you, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you to my glamorous co-host for joining me. Thank you to the lovely listeners and watchers for joining us. We will see you next week for some more fantastic NFL-ness. We'll go over the games that we've predicted here, and we will predict more games. And you never know, we might even get another guest. There we go. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We shall catch you next time. Tatty byes.
Bye-bye.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Big thank you to Mark. Big thank you to James for joining us, taking the time out of their very successful podcast, Straight to the Apex. If you enjoy the Formula One, definitely check it out. It is the finest Formula One podcast around. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. If I can ask you to do a couple of jokes before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Check out the website. It's thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
How awesome is that? So awesome. You gotta like, share and subscribe.